thank you everyone for coming. So by show of hands, how many of you suffer from seasonal allergies? Well, you're not alone. Pollen is one of the most common allergies in the United States. According to a 2010 research report by Climate Control, 20 million Americans suffer from pollen allergies, and those numbers are rising. Pollen allergies are different from other allergies because they are released into the air that we breathe, and they're considered seasonal, but different plants produce pollen in different seasons. For example, here in Tennessee, when the weather changes from winter to spring, the trees are the first plants to release their pollen. But then grass doesn't peak until mid-summer, late spring and midsummer. And then the worst is ragweed, which starts late summer and can run all the way into mid-October. And ragweed is the worst because one single plant can produce 1 billion grams of pollen in one season. And the pollen is so light that the wind can blow it up to 400 miles. So what happens when our climates start changing and the seasonal temperatures rise? Well, I gave you a few handouts. And the first one is the Allergy and Asthma Foundation of America puts this out every year. It's the 100 most challenging places to live with spring allergies. And there's a picture in here that, I don't know if any of you know where this was taken, but it was actually taken just this past spring by a photographer. This is an aerial view. Jerry Gilchrist was the photographer, and he calls this pollen apocalypse. But this is Durham, North Carolina, and this is a cloud of pollen over the city. And what's interesting is Durham, North Carolina is number 57 on this year's, or 58 on this year's list, so that means there's 57 cities that are worse. But, so why is global warming and climate change having such an effect on pollen allergies? Well, studies show that the number of people suffering from pollen allergies has skyrocketed just in the last decade. More and more people are developing pollen allergies because warmer climates are allowing plants to grow in places that they've never grown before. The National Wildlife Federation, along with the AAFA, says that a lot of the most common allergenic plants are pushing northward and expanding their habitat, which means those plants are thriving in areas of the country that they've never grown before, and more people are being exposed to their pollen. Also, earlier springs and mild winters result in longer growing seasons for the plants. According to the AAFA, spring arrives about 10 to 14 days earlier than it did 20 years ago. And warmer temperatures have caused the pollen growing season to increase by as much as 11 to 27 days across the country. With the longer growing season, plants start producing pollen earlier, and this creates an increase in both the pollen that they produce and the intensity of that pollen. So this affects both the timing and severity of our allergy symptoms. And then finally, global warming is a result in part by increasing amounts of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. The CO2 in the atmosphere has increased 40% since the 1700s. These higher levels of CO2 act as plant food, and the plants grow bigger and faster, and they produce more pollen with a stronger intensity. There were test results that a research physiologist named Louis Ziska with the USDA did that show that allergenic pollen in ragweed was increased by 70% just by increasing the CO2 levels. We see this same kind of effect in urban areas where the asphalt and the concrete absorb the heat, and then it radiates and that is called a heat island effect, which in turn causes both pollen production to increase and intensify. So are our allergies getting worse? Well, the research tells us that the answer is yes. The World Allergy Organization says climate changes influence our seasonal allergies in several ways. Plants grow faster, they produce more pollen, and the pollen's allergenic content gets stronger. These heavy pollen loads combined with the longer pollen seasons do cause our allergy symptoms to be more severe and last longer.